Hello, everyone. So, as we know, the last few years in this country, in Ireland, there's been huge talk about immigration. It's been the biggest topic in the country. And we've seen huge anger, and the government are to blame for this anger because the government have allowed this to happen. Now, thankfully, the government seem like they're finally going to listen. And the only reason why they're going to listen, because it's coming to a point in this country, and we see it, every Irish person can tell you, that it's going to be civil war. There will be civil war if something's not done soon. Because there's such anger and such discontent with the government. Because so many Irish people have been left out in the dirt while everybody else comes in and gets everything handed to them. And it's simple as that. We have to say the truth. Because I can't tell you how many young people, Irish young people, have to leave to go to other countries. Because they simply can't get anything. They simply can't get the basics in Ireland. Simple as that. And they want to stay here. But they've been forced out by this government. And the government are bringing in people from Timbuktu and giving them free house and free this, free that. And Irish people left out in the dirt. And never have a hope of owning their own house. Or ever anything in this country. But thankfully, it seems like it's going to change. And we have to be honest with ourselves. The majority of people who are coming here, even the government have said it themselves, that 70% of the people nearly coming here are abusing the system, shouldn't be here. They have no entitlement to be here. Why are they here? And they're coming from safe countries that there's no conflict, Algeria, countries that are not at war, and they're coming here saying, I'm being persecuted, etc. And, it's unacceptable. The country has been abused. People have been abused. The whole system, the whole people of this country have been abused. Not everybody, don't get me wrong. Not everybody's come here and abused the system. But a lot of people have come here and abused the system. Something fierce. And I've seen it many, many times myself. And they're taking advantage, and this is the thing, they've taken advantage of people of Ireland's kindness. And people of Ireland have been very kind to people, particularly from Ukraine. I don't mind so much people from Ukraine. But people have been very kind. People in Ireland have been very, very kind to people. And unfortunately, our kindness was abused and was used. And as simple as that. Because I've seen it on social media. Everybody, people from other countries saying to their friends, come here to Ireland, free this, free that, free the other. It has to stop. And thankfully, maybe the government will stop it. Because as I say, there's such level of anger out there will lead to civil war within the next 3 or 4 years if something's not done. Because it's the same we need the rest of the Western world, because the governments have called everybody far-right extremists for pointing this out. But the simple fact of life is, in the moment, and every Irish person will say this, people are afraid to be called racist. But this is the thing, that your own citizens, it's the job of every state, not just Ireland, if it's France, if it's Germany, if it's Nigeria, if it's South Korea, take for example. It's the job of every country to put their own citizens first. That's who should come first in your own country. And if that's far-right extremists, so be it. But that's you put your own citizens. That's the whole point of identity, that your own citizens come first in your own country. And if that's far-right extremists, so lock me up. But that's the whole identity of your country. You have to put your own people first. And sadly, Irish people have always been left petty the last. And it's simple as that. That's just a simple fact. And I would say it for any asylum seeker too. If they were in their own country, they should come first. Nobody else should come first in anybody else's country. That's the way I see it. And if that's far right, so be it. But it's just a simple fact. And that's just a simple reality. And it should be the reality. And it maybe will be now. But I just want to talk about the family reunification first of all. Now, it's been insane, the family reunification in this country. There's people literally coming here, men, and then they bring their whole families, and then their extended families, their grandmothers, everything, from India, from other countries. It's insane. In one case, I think there was 14 people came with one person. This was down the country. I don't know how, but I presume it was family reunification. He came with his, I think he had 6 or 7 children, and then his wife, and then a few other people. Like, it was insane. Like, he brought his whole family here, and of course, I don't think he's working. He's on benefits, etc. But what I'm trying to say, the system was being abused. That's simple as that. That's the whole point in the matter. So thankfully, they're going to make it extremely harder now for people to reunify with their family, and so rightly so, because what was happening is the state was caring for these people. And so the policy of the state now, and it's genius in my opinion, this, if they do go ahead with it, that you have to earn 44,000 a year to be self-sufficient, that the state doesn't have to look after the people. That you own 44,000, you have to have your own accommodation, etc., for it to be approved for them to come over. And I have no issue with that. That's perfect. That's great. And the other thing I would say too is about Irish citizenship. Now, I've said about this millions of times, that Irish citizenship is too easy to achieve for people. Simple as that. It's a process. It shouldn't be you're entitled. What's happened in this country is people feel entitled as soon as they come here to get Irish citizenship. That's what's happened. And there should be a process. What I say, it should be 15 years. It should be longer than 5 years. The governor's suggesting 5 years. Now it's 3 years. It was 3 years for the last good while. And 3 years was too short. How could you become Irish in 3 years? Let's be fair. Because you don't know the whole history of suffering in this country, the famine, etc., etc., the persecution under the British, etc., etc. you get what I'm saying, should be harder. And it's great that it's going to be 5 years, and I would really suggest that we should make it longer to 10 years, but 5 years at the moment would do. Because people who are getting citizenship, they only turned up 5 minutes and they got citizenship. It doesn't make any sense. Because that's the whole deal. It's a reward. The state gives them as a reward. You're not entitled to it. So I agree with that. And obviously too, and the thing what Finland has done is to do with state benefits too. If you get state benefits, you have no entitlement. You will be taken into account when you get your citizenship. If you do get your citizenship, be taken into account basically how long you're on benefits, what kind of benefits you're on, etc. It should be the same as Finland, where if you're on benefits at all for a few months, it goes by, I think it's 6 or 7 months here, what they're talking about. If you're 6 or 7 months constantly on the dole, it will affect your process. But in Finland, if you're on at the top nearly anyway, apart from 3 months, you can be deported, etc., etc. I don't think we should go maybe that extreme, but we should look at something like that too, if necessary. And just take what's up with student visas too. The government are going to make it more harder for people to come here on student visas, and I will agree on that, because I know so many young people in Cavan who have to trap up and down on buses every day, can't get accommodation in Dublin, and we have so many people. There's hundreds of people coming from India to study in this country on European grants, etc. And Irish people should be in them places, to be totally honest, because there's Irish people that simply can't afford to stay in Dublin, and we have European grants, etc., paying for people in Dublin, for your foreign nationals to be here, etc., to stay in apartments in Dublin, etc. And when Irish people don't get anything. I know so many young Irish people that don't have anything, and unfortunately the reality is they never will have anything, because there's no hope for any Irish person to succeed in this country, and we need to change that. As simple as that. Because Irish people shouldn't come last in their own country. It's simple as that. I say the same if I was in Finland, if I was in Norway, if I was in Sweden. They should put their own citizens first, and I would agree with that. And if I was a foreigner in any country too, I would agree with that. I would agree with that their own citizens should come first. Because you're not entitled as any foreign citizen in any country to get anything. Even if you're a European citizen, you're not entitled to. It's up to the government or the people of that country to bestow that on you, if you're allowed to do whatever, etc. But take for example just one of the facts: 1.6% increase in the population last year. That's a huge amount for Ireland. Ireland's only a small country. It's not a big country like Germany or France, who has big populations. It's a huge increase in the population. The services are not there for people. Simple as that. The services are just not there. And the sheer cost of just asylum centres, etc. There's people literally making billions of it. Billions, hundreds of billions. It's insane. It's all a big money laundering scheme, to be told that, in my humble opinion. Because there's so many people become multi-trillionaires off it. It's insane. It's not about people. It's about money. It's about profit. Just take, for example, work visas too. The government are talking about work visas. They're making it more harder for people to get work visas, or limited the work visas. But as I said about student, the other point I would make is there should be a limit. Like, say for example, only 4,000 people can come here a year to study. That's it. No more than that, because it was insane. We were talking about 50,000 people or so that came here to study in the last few years. Absolutely mad. You're absolutely mad if we're taking that many people in to study. And a good lot of them don't leave after those visas up. But we have to stop it. We have to stop this carry on, because our system is being abused, and that's why it needs to be changed. And it's not far right away, so we have to be fair. We have to be fair, because Irish people they're not being fair with Irish people, so the government in the case of this. But and many other things need to be looked at. But that's only a small fraction. There's a few other things, smaller things they're looking at. But I do agree with this. This should have been done long ago. But the simple reality is, and as I said in the beginning of this video, that Ireland would went to civil war. We've seen what happened in the Dublin riots. We've seen what happened in City West a few weeks ago with the asylum seeker and the 10-year-old girl. That's what happens when you don't have a deportation system. That fellow wasn't even supposed to be here in this country. And of course, deportations need to happen a lot quicker. I think that I have mentioned about that too, the deportations. The process for asylum, applications would be a lot more quicker, would be a lot more quicker and a lot more advanced. Pretty much too, I think they mean deportations too would be a lot more rampant too. And so they should be rampant too, because anybody that's given a deportation, or there should be no such thing as voluntary deportation. You're forcibly removed from the country. Because if you're not entitled to be here, you're not entitled to be here, you're going home. Simple as that. I would say the same for any Irish citizen. Any Irish citizen that's illegal in any country, send them home. Simple as that, send them home. And that's as simple as that. Goes for everyone. And of course too, people in direct provision, etc. are expected to pay, and this should have been from the start. If they are working in jobs, they should pay for it anyway. But the government are going to make them pay for their accommodation, whatever that may be. Which is only right, because it's not fair And I know so many young Irish people who are paying rent. They're paying half of the money. Half of the money. Literally 70% in some cases of their income a week is going towards the rent. And then the rest of the bills. And it's not fair when Irish people having to pay for an apartment. And then there's people coming in and getting a free house, free apartment. When Irish people have to pay thousands a month to literally have a room, just one room. In some cases, it's absolutely mad in Dublin. Some people are paying, God only knows, 1,000 nearly a week for a small room with a small kitchen with a small bathroom. And it's insane. And all just because they want to be close to their job or want to get their education. And it's not fair. It isn't fair. It's not treating Irish people right, and that's as simple as that. But we have to be fair. The whole identity of this, and the whole reason I'm talking about this, I've said this from the start, the system has to be fair. Because the system has been abused. And I said at the beginning of this video, it's been abused constantly. It's been abused constantly. And, your kindness, you can only be so kind to people. And I've always tried to be nice to people in life. And it's always good to be nice. It costs you nothing to be nice, of course. I was always told that as a child. But it comes to a point where people will take advantage of your kindness, unfortunately. There's always people who will try and get more out of you. Because you're too lenient or too kind or won't say anything, because you'd be afraid to deemed racist stuff, extremist, etc. But it comes to a point where you have to say enough is enough. You can't put up with this much longer, and the majority of people in Ireland agree with that. So what I suggest too for asylum seekers, what I suggest for the system of asylum, that there's a limit on how many people can come in. Obviously legitimate people should be put, and obviously women and children first, for not young men, because majority of cases are young men. Should be always women and children first, pretty much. And particularly from Ukraine. I don't mind Ukraine or Afghanistan. And probably Sudan too, because Sudan is in trouble. They're pretty much the only countries people should be turning up from to Ireland. They're the only three countries, really, in a way. Because they're the only places where there's conflict, where there's actually conflict going on. Particularly, as I say, Ukraine, and of course Afghanistan too, with the Taliban. Very aggressive. People can say this is persecution, what's happened over there to particularly young women and women in general. And in Sudan too, the civil war, understandably that. But people coming from Albania and from Georgia and from Algeria and from Nigeria, there's no conflict there, so they shouldn't be coming here. They're coming from safe countries, there's no conflict in. That's what I'm saying. But anyway, let me know what you think, subscribe for more, and what do you think? Because unfortunately it's necessary, because the system has been abused. And the last point I will leave you on, years ago we could trust people, but nowadays unfortunately the way has gone. Years ago you could leave your front door open and walk away for a month and come back and everything be the same. But unfortunately nowadays things you just don't know, and that's just the sad reality. You just don't know nowadays, and it's a sad thing to have to say that society's got to that point, but it sadly is. And we have to take actions to protect ourselves. It's not about protecting anybody else, it's to protect ourselves as a country, and to protect Irish people. And to make sure that the Irish state is in the best possible position to look after its own people. And that's really what it's about. And I know that's cruel, and I know some people say it's harsh, but that's just a simple reality, because you're not God. We're not God. We can't do everything. Unfortunately, we can't, but we can always hope and pray, of course, but we can't be everywhere. We can't do everything. We can't help everybody. Let me know what you think. Subscribe for more, and bye.